and there's been a lot of news coverage on it as well. Virtually every single outlet has reached out at this point to get my insight into what took place. But overall, there was, of course, a lot of support. Liberals who were terrified of the things that are unfolding from, I mean, virtually every single major news article wrote about it. The worst people you know are either celebrating or downplaying your detention. Love to see their true colors. Yeah. It's the least interesting thing that has taken place, which is half of my haters saying that it didn't happen and it's not real, even though the Department of Homeland Security confirmed that it happened. And the other half saying it didn't go far enough. Sometimes people are saying it didn't happen, but if it did, it was good, and it shouldn't. It should have been even harder. I've seen people I respect show support for you. People I wouldn't think know you. Yeah. You want to go to the common side effects Emmy for your consideration event? Sure. We actually say they were just doing their jobs. Yeah. Menachon posted about your detention. Yeah, I saw that. Did you think it would have blown up like this? I mean, I assumed that it would probably get a lot of media coverage because like it's an ongoing story and it's like a boiling point. You know what I mean? But yeah, we'll get started with that one. We'll get started with that. My ex-wife. Look who I got to interrogate today. Damn, I love my job. This is so stupid. Okay. First of all, we're blasted off. We're doing it. Thank you to Macias for the playlist. Okay. Liberal loudmouth streamer. That was my favorite title. A lot of people covered my ICE detention, but my favorite title actually came from New York Post, the dish rag of all dish rags. Okay. New York Post, that every time I get like any sort of positive coverage will immediately write articles about how I'm a terrorist that needs to be killed or whatever. They got on and they hit one of the funniest bars on this, and I can't even deny it. Okay. Liberal loudmouth streamer Hassan Piker claims he was detained by U.S. immigration officials. I respect it. I respect that. Game recognized game. They hit me hard. Okay. They hit me hard where it hurts, calling me liberal, which I think is not great. German conservative media posted something that's surprisingly not ass. That is surprising. Is this good? I don't know. That's a horrible photo of me. U.S. journalist detained. They hit me with a loudmouth. I am a loudmouth, and I respect being called that, but I do not respect being called a liberal. I don't appreciate that. I think that's crazy. Hold on. Please call up Getty Images or something. You need more photos. That's not how that works. Anyway, N for M, but there's a whole cadre of good government and activist law folks who would be extremely relieved to hear you roundly disclaim the wisdom of talking to CBP today. What? Yeah, I already mentioned that in my coverage, for the record. I said it. I was like, the only reason why I did this was because I wanted to investigate it further, and I wanted to see where this would go. There was a red line for me, which was like if they wanted to engage in some sort of unlawful search and seizure of my property. But overall, like I wanted to see what they were like. It was a fact-finding mission for me using my privilege that I have. You know what I mean? So Alex had an aneurysm this morning. Oh yeah, I was making a joke about Qatar funding, which I thought was really funny. Did they go through your luggage? No. Anyway, we'll get to all of that in a second. Should everyone privileged do the same? I mean, it's up to you. One of my favorite compliments I ever got was "Everybody hates you, you smug bastard." So here's the thing. Okay, here's the thing. As you guys already know, I'm not going to lie, Hassan, you're being guilty of the same thing you accused that Newark mayor of. Don't downplay the situation. They literally asked you if you support Trump. You should be sounding the alarms, making the rounds on legacy media to talk about how insane that is. I am doing that. What? I'm doing that. What the hell? What? Some chatters are just some different kinds of idiots. Yeah, I don't know. There's already like, what do you want me to go? Wee woo? Like, what the Yeah, I criticized the New York mayor for saying the Customs and Border Patrol was nice. I didn't say the situation that I had with the Customs and Border Patrol was nice at all. As a matter of fact, I thought it was a ridiculous and unlawful detention that was specifically designed to create a chilling effect on speech. That is very clear. Hello? People are circulating this as evidence to say you aren't minimizing it. Yeah, I didn't want people to freak out. Like, what are we doing? Anyway, so where was I? All right, this is so funny. Like, half of the internet and most of the reactionary commentary sphere that ranges from people that consider themselves to be liberals all the way down to like neo-Nazis is both celebrating and also downplaying what this Trump administration is doing. And it's really funny that I still have dumbass supposedly leftists in my own community that's like who are like, you didn't go hard enough, dude. You should have thrown fisticuffs or some shit. Which I find really funny. Okay, man. You shouldn't travel because they will grass you up, man. What does that mean? But in any case, as I already talked about this, like I already gave my experience. I already explained my experience in great detail, and yeah. Okay, hog pedals are thirsting over Trump's granddaughter after she turned 18. They're gross. They're disgusting. And it's the least surprising thing I've seen. So I see your side too. You're being canary, but a lot of effort goes into advising leftists how to avoid exposure. And since you're a role model for a lot of folks, it could be read as undermining those efforts. I think don't take it personally. Just validate the impulse. Your reasons are singular. Everyone else should follow the guidance. And activist law community. I'm going to lose my mind. Dude, you're wanting me to address things that I already said. I already said all of those things. Okay? Watch the video instead of coming in here and chirping at me. Oh my God. What the is happening? I already addressed all of this. I said I have a position of profound privilege, and I use that in this moment to actually talk instead of immediately doing what is normally wise in those circumstances, which is to not talk and to demand a lawyer or ask if you are being detained. I don't understand why my own community, who was probably in here listening to me explain the situation, is now behaving in this way. What the is going on? I mean, actually, what the is going on? What is happening? What is happening? Yes, the other mics were on. I just turned them off. Thank you, chatter. Oh my God. You're canceled by Law Twitter, buddy. Okay. What is this? Look who finally spoke out against Israel. Comrade SquarePants. Okay, guys, stop. Stop posting random shit. So, I dislike you, and I heard that. What do you mean? How you get detained and people are trying to cancel you for it? Because this is part of the reason why I say nobody grifts to the left, okay? This is why I say nobody grifts to the left, because the left broadly are incredibly annoying people. They are incredibly annoying people that constantly want to talk about how radical they are or constantly showcase how they would do things differently in that situation. There's never any charity to other leftist figures in general. And there is so much ideological diversity that that people they operate on this like almost puritanical basis with their representation of their own ideology, and that's it. It's really annoying. Leftists are unbearable and incredibly annoying, and personally despise solidarity, and it's something that I actively try to work against. But it is what it is. But yeah, I mean, this is a good summarization of the events that took place. This is from a progressive Now This Impact TikTok account. I'll replay this real quick from yesterday. Agent goes, "Step aside, sir." I was like, here we go. All right. I'm waiting in the corner. This Latina ICE agent comes up picks me up, takes me to this detention center. I sit down, fluorescent light bulbs, the whole nine. Okay. They have benches in the back of O'Hare Airport where there's like a detention area. Okay. There's a detention area. I'm sitting there. There's like a bunch of terrified families. Finally, this agent comes out, says, Hassan Piker. I'm like, that's me. Coming with me. I'm like, oh, brother, here we go. They take me to this back room. Okay. And the back room is not great. Everything, the back room is designed in the most hostile way I've ever been inside of a room. The vibes are really back there. Everything is fluorescent light bulb. It's very obvious that they knew exactly who the I was. It's not leftist, it's the internet. Every internet subculture operates like that. Conflict draws in viewers and drives revenue. That's why the internet is filled with contentious assholes. I think so. Was. He kept saying, oh, well, since you mentioned that, what do you do as a job? And I was like, I'm a Twitch streamer. And he's like, well, since you mentioned that, you were a Twitch streamer, what kind of things do you stream about? And at first I was like, do I just tell him I play video games? Because I don't think he's going to believe me if I say I just play video games to him, right? So I was just like, yeah, I play video games, but I also do current events sometimes, drama, internet. And he's like, oh, do you talk about, since you mentioned that, you talk about the things that you talk about, do you talk about the news? And I was like, yeah, I talk about the news. And he kept saying, okay, so when you talk about the news, do you talk about the war? And I was like, what do you mean by that? He's like, do you talk about Trump? And that was the first time where I was like, what the is this question? Like, I literally straight up told him, I was like, why are you asking me this? Like, I was like, what does this have to do with anything? I saw no reason to hold back on certain things. So I said, I don't like Trump. I was like, what are you going to do? It's protected by the First Amendment. I don't like Trump. Yes. Right? Like, I was like, I'm not fond of him. I don't like him. He said he was going to end the wars. He hasn't ended the wars. What's up with that? As a black chatter, you talking to cops was killing me, bro. Dude. Oh my God. Okay. Chatters. As I mentioned yesterday, and I guess I will have to repeat it over and over again, you shouldn't do this. The reason why I did this is because I have a shit ton of privilege. Okay? I wanted to investigate what this inquiry was going to look like. I am wealthy enough to be sheltered from additional scrutiny. I am a public figure. If this were to happen to you in a situation like this, as it's happened to many Americans so far that have come into the country, there wouldn't be 7,000 international articles written about it. The reason why I took advantage of the privilege that I have, being a public person, and also on top of that, having enough money to potentially overcome any sort of serious scrutiny from the government, and access to groups like the ACLU and numerous other First Amendment defending like civil rights organizations with lawyers, used this as an opportunity to try to figure out exactly what was going on with this inquiry process. Okay? And I stressed this over and over again yesterday, which is to not let you do this. I told you, you shouldn't do this. This is it. I have immense privilege, which is why I had the opportunity, in my mind, I made this calculation to actually entertain this back and forth to see what was going on in their line of inquiry, instead of immediately trying to lawyer up in this otherwise the secondary hold or detention that they engaged in. Did you see Lolo's TikTok about you? In any case, from the way you described him, this Iraqi agent seemed begrudgingly to be interviewing you on the Twitch drama stuff. He wasn't really invested. I'm sure those white men CBP agents might have even known who you were. If you got them, it would have been 1,000%. Yeah, I mean, I can only speculate. Okay. And I don't know why people can't comprehend this, especially because I mentioned it. I stressed the importance of this over and over again. And I think people are still looking for any opportunity. People are still looking for any opportunity to be like, I would have done things differently, or you're being a bad example or whatever. Okay? There was never a moment where I said,
So, unless you live under a rock, you are probably aware.
Americans are so cute because they'll have
what is this?
So, unless you live under a rock, you are probably aware of the reality that right now in the United States, things are getting more repressive. The state is becoming bolder. People are being taken off the street. Not just undocumented people anymore, which was already bad enough, but people with green cards, etc., and so forth. And what's been happening more recently is even people who were born in the United States with a passport are coming into the U.S. from vacation or travel, and they are being stopped, sometimes randomly, sometimes not randomly, and being questioned about their political affiliations, political leanings, things of that nature. So yesterday, I got a text message from my friend, Hasan Piker, who, if you know who he is a very prominent left-wing voice. He's one of the largest streamers on Twitch and certainly the largest left-wing streamer. And he was stopped coming in from France. He was coming into Chicago, and they stopped him for a period of time and questioned him, and ultimately he was fine. But he texted me as he was basically being pulled aside to let me know that that was happening, because I am his lawyer friend. And we did have a conversation after this about maybe in the future some things that will be done differently. But this should worry all of us a lot, because Hasan Piker is a very prominent left-wing voice. He is well known. He has a large following on the internet, and he is a rich person. So he's a person with reach and influence. And even though he was only briefly stopped for a period of time when he was coming back in the United States, the fact was they flagged him. They were specifically...
No, Lolo didn't scold me. He did not. I explained to him exactly why I did what I did as well in that conversation. Like, I literally told him, just as I told you, what the purpose of it was.
Looking for him and asking him specific questions about his activities as a political actor in the United States. They're asking him about political opinions. You have
no idea how what you said could be used against you later. It's not about your example, but they're making you into an example. They're clearly looking for a reason to somehow charge you with material support for terrorism. I know, but you do realize that the things that I said in that room are, one, still protected speech, and two, there's nothing I can do if the federal government wants to make an example out of me, you dumb. What is wrong with you? I know. That's kind of the main point of contention here, don't you think? What the are you saying? Yes, I know that already. You think I don't know that? You think I haven't talked to literal journalists and also organizations so far since this conversation took place? I like that. I like that chatters in here are like, dude, you shouldn't have done that. It's like, even if I did, and they use what I said in that interview against me, that's still a precedent-setting court case. You understand? I'm taking that risk knowing full well what the risks associated with it are. And I'm also telling you not to do that. But I also will not be intimidated. Like that was my point. I like that because of the parasocial nature of Twitch streaming, you could have a fascist government unironically apprehend and detain political dissidents, and chatters in the chat will still be like, well, you should have conducted yourself better. Like, shut up. I know what I'm doing. What are you saying right now? I knew that I was taking a calculated risk to talk in that situation. I know that. God damn. This was partially the reason why. I made this calculated decision, because I wanted to see what their inquiries were going to look like. I had heard from TikTok stories of American citizens getting apprehended at the border, getting detained at the border. Okay? And I had a different red line than some other people do. My red line was unlawful search and seizure. But up until that point, I was going to entertain the inquiry so that I could engage in some sort of fact-finding mission. And I actually got TikTok as your source of news. No, you moron. I'm the source of news in this situation. That's what I'm saying. I had heard firsthand accounts from people, not just on TikTok, but immigration attorneys being apprehended at the border, for example, on NBC and numerous other news outlets that had verified reports. So when this situation came, when I was in the similar situation, I was the one who was like, okay, I'm going to see what this is about. Anyway, let's continue.
So he said in the past, his Twitch ban, some things that were frankly ridiculous, and other things that maybe weren't ridiculous but are scary for an administration to be looking for in terms of what your political beliefs are. Your political beliefs shouldn't matter in terms of you being a United States citizen and you making transit in and out of the United States. Coming from France, mind you, like not coming from somewhere where there's things are unstable on the ground or there are actors that the United States considers to be dangerous, just like coming from a trip to France.
How can you trust things that happen to you? Are an anecdotal experience unreliable? Yes.
So, yeah, I've said this before. You need to be aware. Like, this is the reality right now. The Trump administration is floating the idea and talking, like Stephen Miller is talking about, they want to suspend habeas corpus. Habeas is the ability to challenge a wrongful arrest, you know, so basically the police can't arbitrarily arrest you and not tell you why you're being held or hold you indefinitely. It's a critical function of due process, which is what every American is guaranteed, but also everybody who is on American soil by the Constitution.
Now, the issue here is that the only place where you technically don't have this, or it's technically an illegal gray area, and I think like immigrant rights attorneys will also tell you this, or at least as far as everything that I read, they also will literally tell you that it's like kind of a gray area, is the border. Okay? That's it. That's the one area where there is definitely a deliberate effort from the Supreme Court and the American reactionary movements that have eroded constitutional protections piece by piece. You're more useful to the movement free and doing this work than in a cell somewhere, bro. We don't have to give them a sacrificial lamb to know it's fascism. I also disagree with you on this. Then why don't I just leave the United States of America and escape and like keep streaming from a different country? This is something that a lot of people are suggesting in a very parasocial way as well. And it's like, no, there are going to be moments where I am presented with a threatening situation, and I think that it is appropriate for me to at least have some skin in the game. It's all right, especially because I do have a lot of privilege. That's it. That's it. And yes, I will continue to travel internationally, and I will continue to talk about these things, and I'll continue to report on things that happen to me as well. As I've said over and over again, I am not a journalist. I'm a political commentator. I'm not an activist. I'm a political commentator. I'm an entertainer. But there are unique moments in my career where I do engage in some journalism, where I make some news, right? And my personal experience in that regard played a role here.
That's established law, and that has been established law. We know that this administration doesn't care about any of that stuff and doesn't care about what the law is in actuality. All of us collectively need to be smart about how we are articulating certain things online, not to be silent, to be perfectly clear before the do not comply in advance heroes in the comments go absolutely insane. And really, wow, you are such heroes down there. I'm saying let's maybe try not to get black bagged and thrown in federal prison, because actually you're not helpful to anybody if you're there. Okay. It's important to remember that posting is not activism, right? So you have to be smart about what you're doing, how you're doing it, and you have to protect yourself and your communities. You also need to put pressure on your elected officials to actually stand up about these things. Are most electeds not really doing much about it? Things are really bad, but I also think Trump's approval rating is incredibly low, and there are a lot of judges that are pushing back in terms of any of the enforcement things that this administration is trying to do. And we collectively need to pay attention and show up when the law is broken, when people are detained, etc. We need to keep each other and our communities safe because we're the only ones who are going to do it. And you need to be smart and not put stupid things in writing, honestly. Doesn't mean you can't express your political opinion. You should be expressing your political opinion. I just wrote a piece. I've written pieces about Luigi Mangione. I've written pieces about not feeling bad for police officers that got killed. You can still express yourself. You just need to be smart about the way you do that.
So there is, there's a lot of commentary, a lot of back and forth happening on this stuff. And there's been a lot of news coverage on it as well. And virtually every single outlet has reached out at this point to get to get my insight into what took place. I have, with the limited amount I have, with the limited amount of spare time that I have, I tried to use that to the best of my ability and respond to questions and things like that. But overall, there was, of course, a lot of support from liberals who were terrified of the things that are unfolding. A lot of articles were written about it virtually every single major news article, major news publication wrote about it. Here's the New York Times. On Hasan Piker, popular left-wing streamer, says he was detained at airport. Mr. Piker said he was questioned for 2 hours on topics including the war in Gaza and President Trump. Popular Turkish-American online streamer said he was stopped and questioned for hours about his political beliefs by U.S. Customs and Border Protection after flying back in the United States from overseas on Sunday. Mr. Piker, 33, said in a live broadcast on Monday that he was asked about his job, his beliefs on Gaza and the President Trump, and other topics he discussed on his live stream while being held for 2 hours at an airport in Chicago. Mr. Piker, who was born in the United States, said he was passing through global entry and a U.S. Customs and Border Protection program that eases security checks for travelers deemed to be low risk when an agent asked him to step aside. According to Piker, a U.S. Immigration Customs Enforcement agent led him to an area he described as a detention center where he was taken into a room for questioning. It's very obvious they knew who I was, Mr. Piker said, using an expletive. He has about 4.5 million followers combined on YouTube, Twitch, Tricia McLaughlin, a spokesman for the Department of Homeland Security, said in a statement on social media that Mr. Piker's claims that his political beliefs triggered the inspection are baseless. Upon entering the country, this individual was referred for further inspection, a routine lawful process that occurs daily and can apply for any traveler, she said. Once his inspection was complete, he was promptly released. Now, I found this to be a very funny response, and the reason why I think it's really funny is because, and I tweeted about this already last night. I found this to be really interesting. One, because first and foremost, they admit to it happening, which is like they openly admit to it taking place, right? Saying that I'm lying for likes is very funny because they don't even deny that it took place. Okay? They simply deny that it was a political targeting. And I think it's important. I think it's important to take note of what the Department of Homeland Security is taking issue with here. Okay? What the Department of Homeland Security is taking issue here is what the Department of Homeland Security is taking issue with here is political beliefs being triggered for the inspection. Now, I think that's important to take note of because it shows you what the admin is worried about. Okay? Because if they were not worried about anything, they would have just been like, yeah, he is a figure of notoriety that we pulled a red flag on. Because they openly admit that the detention happened. They openly admit that the investigation took place, right? But they're worried about the backlash that they might receive given that this is perceived as a political targeting, okay? To which I responded with, by the way, in the NBC article, what part of a lawful routine inspection requires the DHS to question me about my political views, my opinions on Donald Trump, or my stance on Israel and Palestine? The agent was cordial, but the experience, along with reports of other Americans facing similar questioning, seems intended to create a chilling effect on speech. As a taxpayer, I believe CBP agents should be focusing on actual threats like preventing agricultural risks or combating trafficking, not interrogating people about their political beliefs. So, as I said, the DHS response is so funny because they're not even disputing that it happened. They're omitting the insane questions that were asked and instead claiming that I wasn't targeted for my political beliefs. Why'd y'all ask me about Trump, Israel, Houthis, Hamas, and my Twitch bans then? So that is what is interesting about the process. Either the DHS is lying about the political motivations for Hasanabi's detention, or asking citizens about their allegiance to Israel is now their standard practice. Exactly. Like, is this normal? Not even just like allegiance to Israel, but also opinions on Donald Trump, the president, or opinions on Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis. Like, that's crazy. That's not normal. That is the whole point of this. The reason why this is insane is because you are asking an American citizen who is literally a part of global entry, right? That has already been, that is a known traveler to the Department of Homeland Security, an American citizen that was born on U.S. soil, questions about whether or not they have an allegiance to Donald Trump, the current president. None of this will bar you entry into the country. Do you understand? And I don't even think that that was the purpose. I think that the purpose was to create a chilling effect. That's it. Mr. Piker described the conversation as really, really interesting and very cordial. He said the agent asked him what he did for work, the topics he talked about in his streams, and whether he discussed the news, including the war in Gaza and President Trump. They straight up tried to get something out of me that I think they could use basically to detain me permanently, Mr. Piker said, using an expletive again. There's no direct connection or direct involvement. He also described the agent who identified himself as Iraqi as very sympathetic, where, okay, they literally took very specific parts of this to make this seem like it was a pleasant experience overall, okay? And they just did not, they omitted parts of this conversation that I definitely maintained was not, was not a pleasant experience. When he asked the agent why he was being detained, Mr. Piker said the agent told him it was routine. He also said he was repeatedly asked about his opinions on whether he was involved with Hamas, the Houthis, an Iranian-backed militant group that controls northern Yemen, and Hezbollah. Throughout the questioning, Mr. Piker said he was transparent in his responses and repeated the same answers, including describing himself as a pacifist who wanted the wars to end. In his broadcast, Mr. Piker said he planned to submit an online inquiry about why he was stopped. That's why I told you don't say cordial. That makes it sound like Ras Baraka shit. Yeah, but it's the truth. There's one citizen who has direct contact with Hamas, and through that, he facilitated the release of Eden Alexander. He's a pro-Trump Palestinian American businessman who arranged the White House-Hamas direct negotiations. Yes, exactly. The Trump administration is in direct contact with Hamas. What are we talking about? The idea that having a direct contact with Hamas or having direct contact with the Houthis or having direct contact with Hezbollah is not allowed in any way, shape, or form is, once again, an erosion of what previous considerations would immediately destroy as far as like a need for detention. Okay. We've already dropped that ball completely. It is ridiculous. The f do you mean? Have you interviewed Hamas? I haven't, but I would like to in the future. What are you going to do? Arrest me? What are you, crazy? That's insane. Like, that is actually insane, especially because as I mentioned this, like, Jeremy Scahill's interviews with the Ansar Allah movement played a formative role in the Trump administration coming to the table in Oman to cut a ceasefire arrangement with the Houthis. Okay? Direct contact with membership, with direct contact with like the Politburo of Hamas is an essential part of the Eden Alexander release that took place. Yeah, and at no point did I say I was treated well. Okay, I said the agent was cordial, but the experience overall was designed to create a chilling effect on speech. You were giving them time to make shit up through whatever reason they detain you with. I have mentioned this before, and I think that a lot of people don't understand this, but you absolutely are allowed right now under the First Amendment protections as a citizen or non-citizen to express support for Hamas. The idea that you cannot do that is ridiculous. You, in the United States of America, as long as you are on U.S. soil, are protected by the First Amendment. The idea that you cannot do that is new. That's new shit, okay? That is new shit. And even then, I personally was managing the risk in my mind and did not take it to that step when I was having a conversation with the ICE guy, okay, with the agent. I don't even know if he's ICE, Customs and Border Patrol, or potentially HSI. Like a lot of people online just simply don't understand what the First Amendment looks like and what it's supposed to be used for. It's this. This is what it's supposed to be used for. It's a restriction on the government, okay? It's not a restriction on you. The First Amendment is not about private corporations refusing to ban you because you said slurs. It's this. This is literally what it's there for. This is the exact reason for why it exists, okay? It is not a restriction on the citizens. It is a restriction on the government from engaging in displays of power against the citizens. Even if our speech is about the support of designated terror groups and represent national security risks, this person responds to. He says, merely expressing support for a terrorist group is still protected speech. So yes, of course. You can say what you want in a free speech society. However, you are not free from the consequences when free speech threatens the basic rules of society. You certainly are free from government-imposed consequences, actually. That's the whole basis. You can't say you're not protected from the consequences. They're not doing a cancellation Twitter post, dumbass. They're trying to cancel your freedom. It is literally the basis for the First Amendment, and it's so crazy because these guys are so stupid. What does that mean? The First Amendment prohibits the government from punishing or retaliating against constitutionally protected speech it doesn't like. If the government is imposing adverse consequences because of protected speech, that is unconstitutional. Okay, sir. Someone comes in front of your house and exercises free speech right to say, I will burn your house. You're good? No problem. No, sir, you are not. I love that this guy is literally trying to debate a constitutional law, a person who specializes in First Amendment litigation, okay? He is a First Amendment and defamation lawyer. The audacity. No, sir, you are not. No, why? Because that speech may have devastating consequences. So when a dude repeatedly and publicly states he supports a group calling for the death of America, there are consequences. If you cannot understand this, then you chose the wrong job. Except true threats are not protected speech. Saying I support Hamas is not a true threat. It is protected speech. So no, the government can't punish it, even if you think it has devastating consequences. Thanks for playing how to have no idea what you're talking about. If I were you, I might consider that someone whose job this is might know more about it than you. But then I'm not a moron. I liked your last sentence. You are correct in that this is not a crime. However, said type of speech will likely warrant an investigation and questioning. Speech is used as a probable cause or an escalating factor for a motive in crime. Example, if you beat someone up at the bar, this is battery and assault. If you beat someone up at the bar while yelling racial slurs at him, the rhyme is elevated to a hate crime. Your words are used as evidence to understand the motive. Hasan publicly supports terrorists. They may just be words, but those words beg the question. Is he sending them money? A crime. Is he helping them organize? A crime. That's not what question begging is. If you beat someone up, you already have committed a crime. What are you even trying to say? Cops can't just detain anyone they want because they said words of general support for someone else who committed a crime. Like, it is kind of crazy that this, once again, goes along with the incredibly the incredibly dumb thing that happens online all the time, where it's like American exceptionalism, American individualism, and just like Dunning-Kruger causes people to just go, no, actually, you, the expert, dedicating his life to this is actually wrong. I, random guy who doesn't like what this person is saying, will now sit here and act as though the First Amendment doesn't protect speech that I don't personally like. That's not how this works. This is also precisely the reason why, while I have maintained the position that Nazis, neo-Nazis in particular, that violate all or take advantage of like the liberal notions of wanting to have normal discourse, getting at least like some kind of blackballing or blacklisting, have always maintained the position that the government should protect their speech regardless. Like, there is a limit to it, right? There are penalties that can be incurred through private modes of communication, but at the end of the day, I still understand that outside of circumstances where they are in the act of engaging in a hate crime, that yes, the government should not be arresting people on the basis of speech. The reason why I've also always maintained this position is because I'm Turkish. I'm from a country where there is no free speech. And part of that reason is why I can't even go back to my own country. Okay? This is the point. So yes, of course, I am frustrated to see my other country, the United States of America, the country that I was born in, Turkifying at an alarming rate. You were born in the U.S.? Yes. This conversation was even better. Platforming terrorist propaganda isn't protected speech. You are certainly no constitutional scholar. I'll say that much. You don't need to be a constitutional scholar to know that inciting support for a designated terrorist group crosses legal lines. But hey, keep defending the influencer industrial complex if that's your hill to die on. You don't have to be anything to know things that are completely wrong. I would imagine that's one of the principal benefits of being a moron. Imagine thinking the Constitution protects influencer cosplay while they regurgitate talking points from foreign terror orgs. You are not defending free speech. It does. Like, even if you think that that's what I'm doing, it literally does protect that. It precisely protects that. This is one of those things that is incredibly frustrating to me. And it's kind of funny seeing others who are now having to deal with what I have to deal with on a daily basis. What I have to deal with on a daily basis is exactly this. The dumbest people alive that are heavily opinionated without like a true understanding of constitutional law, operating on their own personal feelings and assuming that the federal government and the way that things work is supposed to be at the mercy of your own individual perspective. Okay? And the reason why I'm talking about this is because every single dumb First Amendment defender, every single dumb free speech guy on the YouTuber orbit has basically unified in taking exactly the same positions that you're hearing with these blue check marks going after a First Amendment lawyer. Imagine thinking the Constitution protects influencer cosplay. No, imagination necessary. That's exactly what it does. Curious that you say the words regurgitating talking points and then you're not defending speech. What exactly do you think speech is? Speech ends where material support for terrorism begins. The Constitution isn't a suicide pact, no matter how badly TikTok lawyers want it to be. You spelled speech wrong, by the way. You're using words you read on the internet, but you don't understand again. If I'm misusing terms, you should be able to explain why without using sarcasm and smug filter. But you haven't, because deep down, even you know there's a line between opinion and laundering narratives for designated terror groups. You just don't care where it is. Why would I do that? You're immovably convinced that you're right without the slightest clue of what you're talking about. I'm not wasting my time on that. I'd rather do something fun like this. So instead of explaining your position like a lawyer, you're lobbing playground insults and dodging substance. If you want me to act like a lawyer for you, there's a fee arrangement that comes with it. This is an office, not a courtroom. This is the internet. If you hadn't come in hot, then consistently insisted you were correct, maybe I'd feel it was worth my time. You're bad. Guys who think free speech is when their friends get canceled for saying slurs fundamentally do not understand. Okay? Yeah, the Supreme Court of the United States has literally ruled that actual terror organizations like the American Nazi Party is protected under the First Amendment. It is ridiculous. Okay? This is one of the unique things about the United States of America and how expansive its First Amendment protections look like, as opposed to other liberal democracies around the world. Okay? But it does not make any sense that so many people just refuse to understand this thing, refuse to understand this fundamental principle. They refuse to understand the supposedly the most important part of the Constitution. They're just like, no, I don't understand. Free speech is only when I say slurs or only when My friends get upset that titties are getting smaller in video games. And actually, when the government decides that a person that I don't like is going to be falsely detained or whatever, then it's actually good. It's not protected by the First Amendment. It's like, no, that's the only thing that is protected by the First Amendment in these conversations that are taking place. If the government actually arrested you for saying a slur, then yes, that would be a violation of the First Amendment, unless you were literally doing a hate crime. Okay? But on speech alone, especially if you are like saying that you like the American Nazi Party or the Klan or the Houthis or Hamas, even though these things are not even comparable in terms of like the damage that it causes for America in general, where like obviously domestic terror organizations are far more consequential than a nationalist emancipatory movement in Yemen or in occupied Palestinian territory that has never done anything outside of occupied Palestinian territory, for the record. Okay? As opposed to a domestic white nationalist terror group that is like actively doing direct acts of domestic terror on U.S. soil. Okay. But even then, it doesn't matter. It's still protected. It's still constitutionally protected speech. Here is Anna, who is a immigration human rights lawyer, that says, to be clear, Hasan's political speech is unequivocally protected under the First Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. Also, he's a U.S. citizen. He has a constitutional right to re-enter the country under the 14th Amendment. This should have never happened. And it's so funny because people go, because it didn't happen, lol. And that's the thing that I wanted to get to. Okay? That's the point I wanted to get to, is like all of these dumb slop tubers don't know what they're talking about. And I please, if you're coming in here to be like, Hasan, I don't really like you, but I wanted to hear your perspective on this. I wanted to understand what was going on, but I don't really like you. And my favorite content creators don't like you at all. And I've heard a lot of stuff because I've seen a lot of clips of you online. I need you to please, you don't have to listen to me. You don't have to watch me, but please go and like read anything, just anything that's not a Twitter blue check mark reply. Okay. Please. Because these guys are deluding. These guys are delusional and they are leading you down a wrong path. They are misinforming you. Okay. They are misinforming you. They don't know anything. They don't know what they're talking about. Do you understand? They do not know what they are talking about. Oh, this is what is frustrating about this process. There are a lot of out of touch, delusional, uninformed, apolitical, okay, content creators out there, slop tubers in general, or people like Asmongold, or people like or people like Ethan Klein, like people that are just like angry for no discernible reason, or angry for whatever their own personal vendetta is, and they just basically delude people into believing wrong things. They push people into believing incorrect things. Okay? You don't have to agree with my positions on this, but when I tell you something about First Amendment protected speech, I'm telling you the truth, okay? My dudes don't like you, so I don't like you. I know nothing about you. For all I know, you advocate for human rights, rehabilitation, peace, and overall betterment of mankind, but because Ethan likes you, you must be bad. Be better. The one dude calling the First Amendment lawyer a Twitch mod is an insult to tell you about his whole worldview. I know. They're glazing the DHS statement as a progressive community. Yeah, I saw like the 100+ posts that community has made. It's crazy. I mean, they're completely done. They are no longer a progressive community at all. We knew that already, but look at this. The H3 issue production subreddit has now posted about Hasan over 110 times in the last 24 hours alone. Even Hasan's own Reddit page doesn't talk about him this much. Ethan Klein works alongside CPP to get Hasan detained routinely as far as back. People call Chicago Chirac are looked down upon here and is usually used by MAGA. We have a saying here, shut the fuck up about Chicago. Hasan implies that Admiral should kill himself. Hasan sitting in his daddy's lap. Hasan taking a question at O'Hare Airport by border agents. Hasan community shows that they're racist once again. Like, Homeland Security. They literally posted, Homeland Security, nothing but lying for likes. Can you imagine being a supposedly progressive community and looking at the fascist Trump administration's Gestapo agents openly admitting that a detention happened, but then saying that it wasn't political targeting, and agreeing with the Department of Homeland Security because of your not even your own personal convictions about a Twitch streamer that you don't like, but because of your favorite content creators' opinions about a Twitch streamer he doesn't like. Will he ever be punished for this behavior? It's nuts. Hasan claims Custom stopped him for additional questioning when he re-entered the U.S. Why would Destiny do this to Hasan? DG operatives. Why would Disney do this to Hasan? You support terrorists while entering a country with a hyper-nationalist president who's ignoring courts. Why are you even in the U.S.? You could literally live anywhere on the planet. He chooses to live in a country he despises with citizens he despises. It's so weird and cringe. He's a communist with a Gucci bag. Got his product kicks. Got to have his swag. Isn't he a Turkish dual citizen? Why is he paying American taxes he used to fund the genocide? Like, look at this. What the is happening? I thought these guys hated Trump. What is going on? Yeah, I'm not criticizing Hasan here. He wasn't naive about that. He knew he was taking a risk by answering the questions. My point is that Hasan's risks are different than yours. He's a public figure. He cannot be disappeared easily. For ordinary people, do not talk to cops. Yeah. Every answer generates more risk for you. That's why they want to keep you talking. They think you'll eventually mess up and say something that can be used against you. And eventually you will mess up, and it will. And yes, this is correct. This is why I also repeated this position initially when I talked about this yesterday. When I said the reason why I did this, as opposed to shutting the up as though it's shut the up Friday, is because I wanted to see, given my immense privilege as a public figure and as someone who has enough money to be able to defend myself, okay, but especially given my position as a public figure, I wanted to see what the line of inquiry was going to look like. I made a calculated risk. I put myself in a position that was threatening deliberately by choice because I wanted to see what would happen. I wanted to see what they were interested in asking. Okay, I wanted to see what the government was doing as far as their normal routine process. I do not advise you to do this. You should not do this. Okay? You're still bitching about this. That's so funny. Every mainstream news outlet has covered this story about the fascist Trump administration and its Customs and Border Patrol going after American citizens for their constitutionally protected First Amendment speech. And you're like, wow, I can't believe you're on this still. It hasn't even been like 48 hours since this took place, okay? If you can't comprehend how dangerous this is, okay, I don't know what to tell you. I met Hasan and he bought Kaya Van Cleef and called me a brokey. Hasan, this is going to be unwatchable core. In any case, like I said, this is not something that I urge you to do. You should not do this. I use the immense privilege that I have in this process to see what the line of inquiry would look like. And I think that it's good that there are more eyeballs on this now, especially considering that this happens to regular American citizens. This has been happening to regular American citizens. And the news coverage on this has been, the news coverage on this up until this very moment had been limited. Okay, but doing this to someone with my level of elevated public status, of course, was going to trigger a lot of alarm bells, especially considering that while your favorite slop tuber might not consider me to be a media personality, mainstream media does. Adults do. Was there a mini F? I didn't experience it on my end. I don't understand. Do they not think that you would talk about this? I think part of the reason why this happened was because hold on 1 second. My suspicion, I can only speculate, but my suspicion, check out the photo they used for you on this. That's funny. Wait, how do you zap this? Oh, here it is. Yeah, this is not the best photo to use, but what are you going to do? My suspicion as to why they did this is because they want to create a chilling effect on speech for political dissidents. Okay? That's it. And the reality of the matter is, given my background and given the stubborn nature, I am probably one of the worst people to try and do this to, because it's only going to reaffirm my commitment to speaking truth to power. And this should not scare you. Okay? Another TikToker I follow just went through the same thing. Come on, dude. God damn it. Take a week off. All right, that's... God damn it. You guys are assholes sometimes, I swear to God. Anyway, let's see what the New York Post posted and said.
Hasan Piker claims U.S. immigration officials attempted to detain him permanently after they allegedly stopped him for questioning when he arrived from France to Chicago over the weekend. In a 40-minute live stream, Piker recounted the incident, alleging that agents bombarded him with questions about his views on Hamas, hinting at what he described as an attempt to build a case against him. They straight up tried to get something out of me that I think they could use to basically detain me permanently, Piker told his audience, insisting that he kept his responses firm and repetitive. I kept repeating the same statement over and over again. I kept saying, I'm on the side of civilians. I want the endless bloodshed to end. I am a pacifist. I want wars to end, he claimed. Piker, who has cheered both Hamas and Houthi terrorists on his platforms, portrayed himself as bravely stonewalling the agents' questions, even as he is known for repeatedly calling Israelis inbred and defending some of the most extreme
that's awesome.
positions regarding the October 7th Hamas terror attack against Israel that left more than 1,200 people dead. The far-left streamer claimed that the detention was part of a broader effort to create an environment of fear and suppress dissenting voices like his. Nothing I have done online is illegal as of now, he said, warning that laws may change in the future and they might actually start prosecuting speech, which I do fear is the goal of this administration. Despite his claims of oppression, Piker is widely known for his lavish lifestyle, driving a $200,000 Porsche, living in a multi-million-dollar home in West Hollywood, and raking in millions of dollars a year from his online streaming ventures.
That's so funny. Like, they love hyping me up, dude. They're so... I love the New York Post, my favorite outlet for journalism. It's amazing.
During the 2 hours he claimed he was detained, Piker said he feared that Customs and Border Protection agents would seize his phone or laptop, although neither was confiscated. His elaborate recap of the alleged incident comes amid a trend of influencers and activists posting exaggerated stories of brushes with immigration officials.
Exaggerated stories?
For online celebrity.
It is a tabloid.
Over the weekend, an anti-Trump TikTok user named Eye of Sav posted a video claiming she was held for hours while immigration and customs enforcement agents inspected her phone and social media accounts. DHS, however, publicly disputed her claims, calling them false and clarifying that her inspection was a routine, lawful process that occurs daily for many travelers, regardless of political affiliation. Claims that her political belief triggered the inspection are baseless. Our officers are following the law, not...
Yeah, I don't claim to be oppressed at all.
Federal agents detained and questioned Hasan Piker at O'Hare International Airport in Chicago, and I don't care if you love him, you detest him, you don't know who the hell this big-bodied, small-headed bastard who every picture it looks like he wants to make out with himself is. But the situation in this news, at the very least, it should make you somewhat concerned, because it's not just this outlier situation that's happening in a bubble. And with what just happened, you have him claiming that his detention and interrogation were not random. Hasan going public and saying that he was questioned about his political views, including whether he supports Trump and whether he's connected to Hamas or affiliated groups in the region, and ultimately accusing the administration of trying to silence dissent with intimidation. Right, one of the things that we need to note here, because we're talking about someone trying to enter the country, we've seen a number of instances, is that Hasan was born in New Jersey and he's a US citizen. With Hasan then later expanding on the experience in detail on his stream.
They knew who I was and they were ready to receive me. Let's just say. And it wasn't a very warm welcome. And there were definitely areas where I was very revealing about my position, knowing full well that they know exactly what they're looking for. I saw no reason to hold back on certain things. So I said, I don't like Trump. I was like, what are you going to do? It's protected by the First Amendment. I don't like Trump.
But that said, when he asked why he was being detained, the agent reportedly told Hasan that it was routine, with Hasan then claiming that rather than questions about Trump, there were a lot about his views in connection to Israel.
He kept saying stuff like, do you like Hamas? Like, do you support Hamas? Do you think Hamas is a resistance group? I kept saying a couple different things. One, in terms of like Israel and all the wars, I was like, I'm on the side of civilians. I want the endless bloodshed to end. I am a pacifist. And every single time he asked me a question, a leading question about Hamas, I kept saying, the United States State Department recognizes Hamas as a terrorist organization. The United States State Department recognizes Hamas as a terrorist organization.
And from there, he had Hasan saying that the questions went from being about his views to asking if he had any contact or involvement with Hamas as well as the Houthis or Hezbollah.
They straight up tried to get something out of me that I think they could use to basically detain me permanently.
Now, with all of that said, on the other side, you had officials denying that Hasan was targeted over his beliefs during what they called a routine and lawful inspection, with notably DHS spokesperson Tricia McLaughlin accusing the streamer of, quote, lying for likes, and going on to say, claims that his political beliefs triggered the inspection are baseless. But follow to stay in the loop.
Yeah, Crash Out's asking.
What is the charge? Enjoying a meal, a succulent Chinese meal? Why didn't you just stay silent versus entertain the questions? Oh my God, how many times do I have to describe it? Look at all of the media coverage that has unfolded since this took place, okay? As a person with immense privilege, I wanted to use the opportunity of my own unlawful detention at the border to investigate further what their line of inquiry would look like, okay? Richard Medhurst is actually being charged and facing. Do you care about what has been happening with Richard Medhurst? Wait, what? And not cosplaying. When have I? What? Why are you coming in here so hot with like a weird accusatory tone? If I'm not mistaken, Richard Medhurst is in the UK, and it's a similar structure to what took place with Kneecap, where in the UK, they don't have a First Amendment that protects you from government scrutiny. And I think it's ridiculous. I don't agree with what they're doing at all. Why would Phil describe you like that? Are you guys not friends? No, he was memeing, chatter. What do you mean? He said I had a small head. What are you talking about? I saw so many Ethan fans go say this along the lines of, oh, people go through this every day. He's not unique, which makes no sense. Like, how does that justify it? I know. And that was the reason why I also entertained the line of questioning instead of engaging in the active shut the fuck up Friday. Because yes, a lot of people have actually gone through this experience, but a lot of people do not have a platform such as myself as a political dissident, as a media figure. That is the reason why I wanted to see what the line of questioning would look like. Okay? Because I wanted to voice a concern through my own personal experience of what the federal government is doing here to a lot of random American citizens. Okay? That's it. That's the point.
Gold's fault I got detained. What is this? So is Hasan blaming me that he got detained at the airport? Yeah, guys, I made the call.
And I was shocked. We're unironically brought up in that conversation. The Houthi. Like, did you?
That's right. Yes, that's right. Saying that
Wait, I never said Asmongold is the reason. What? I like that these guys live in their own little bubble where they say stuff like this. No, I never said Asmongold is the reason. I said that the type of shit that Asmongold and Redditors would bring up were being brought up in the line of questioning by the federal government, which I thought personally was insane, right? Because you would assume that the investigations that the Customs and Border Patrol or the Department of Homeland Security are conducting would be, a little bit more informed than like a Redditor comment. Bro, everyone is jumping to be the villain in your story. It's insane. I know. I don't know how. Did I even mention Asmongold's name in this? I don't even know. I might have said that, like, the type of questioning that came from a Customs and Border Patrol officer was like a slop tuber. You really can't do anything without someone getting pissed off. I know. It's because there's an entire ecosystem designed around dumb who don't know anything, who don't even understand the consequences of this kind of behavior from the federal government and how that might impact them or a loved one in the future, just simply are in it for drama and clicks. Of course, I don't even expect Asmongold to do the basic analysis here of the basic cursory analysis of like whether or not I even brought him up or blamed him for it. He just probably read a Reddit comment and immediately went along with it.
You support a designated terrorist organization got you extra questioning whenever you were re-entering the country.
Oh, you want to see a Houthi musical?
Sure. See, I know they're singing.
This is not this again. Once again, this right here, what he's showing right here is constitutionally protected speech and does not actually reach the standard of a Customs and Border Patrol investigation. That is the whole point. Why are people behaving as though this is normal when the entire reason why this is newsworthy is because it's not normal? Okay? There is a reason why every single news outlet wrote about this story. The reason for why every single news outlet on the planet, including international news, wrote about this story is because this is new. Okay? This is not something that is normal. That is the whole point. I am so frustrated with the stupidity of the people that have so much motion in the online discourse spaces that just rely on the stupidity of the audience to craft these idiotic arguments. It's the same reason why people will turn around. Is the same reason why people will turn around and say, like, well, Mahmoud Khalil was doing material support for terrorism. No, he wasn't. And that is precisely the reason why. That's a precedent-setting court case that is unfolding in front of us right now at this very moment. It is precisely the reason why he didn't do that. The reason why he didn't do that and the government's claims for this detainment is invalid, that it is becoming a Supreme Court case. You can't just simply go, I agree with it, so you know, it's actually normal and routine. You can't just say that. You can say you agree with this detention and then craft an argument around why you agree with this detention, but you can't act like this is normal, okay? Especially at a time when obviously adults, journalists are going, this is not normal. Very frustrating that stupidity is rewarded over and over and over again, okay? You can't even get your rights violated without some moron chirping, bro. I really do not envy you. I know.
Yeah, but I'm seeing this guns and shit. This isn't a music video, Hasan.
We think the Houthis, Ansar Allah, is doing what Luffy would do. I have no problem with the Houthis. Yeah, because I don't. What do you mean?
Yeah, okay, there it is.
If you think I'm a terrorism supporter for that reason, then yeah, I'm a terrorism supporter. What are you talking?
Okay, well, there it is. Wow.
What do you mean, okay, well, there it is? None of this is reaching the boundary that is. You can't just say there it is and then that's your argument, okay? This is still very much constitutionally protected speech. Please, what the is going on? It's so basic. I feel like a 14-year-old understands this concept. Oh my God. I guess you don't believe in free speech, which we knew already. He does not.
Can you believe the levels of oppression that we have today?
Gotten me arrested is insane. And I genuinely, in that moment, was thinking, like, these dumbass slop tubers are actually playing with fire. And I even thought...
Really? Playing with fire? Okay.
About, yes. They are. They are. By the way, I like that Asmongold immediately assumed I was talking about him when I said slop tubers. I guess he knows that he is a slop tuber. Yes, the fact that the federal government is utilizing lists from terrorist organizations like Beitar to actually conduct unlawful detentions and deportations of student activists. The fact that the federal government is literally conducting investigations that basically revolve around like slop tuber drama is alarming. Okay? Yes, That is what is going on here. That is what is alarming about the situation. It's still crashing out pure cinema. This is, oh my God. Oh, chatter. I am a political commentator talking about my own personal unlawful detention by Customs and Border Patrol, which is a matter that has escalated so severely that international news is covering it because it is unprecedented in its nature, while simultaneously talking about the dangers of what this means for the future of all Americans, okay, in a country where the government is saying that they want to deny habeas corpus. This is my job. It happens to be a unique instance where it's not only my job, but it's also something that I have personally experienced. This is not a crash out. This is called political commentary. I know that so many of you are so firmly locked in on drama and slop and can't understand news and commentary and news coverage without thinking everything is drama or without thinking everything is slop. It's very frustrating. About not even mentioning this because I was like, I don't want to give him any.
Okay, so that's the first lie here. Does anybody actually believe that he actually thought of not mentioning this?
He actually instantly tweeted about it, and since then reposted it dozens of times.
The reality of the matter is 100% the Trump administration is working with a lot of these dipshits. These
That's right. I made the call yesterday when...
No. Oh, my God. Oh my God. It's extra frustrating because not only is this incredibly stupid, okay, but it's extra frustrating because I know the audience is incredibly stupid and they don't have the reading comprehension here, and all they will do is listen to Asmongold's framing on the matter. My opinion here is the unique nature of the federal government's incompetence paired up with their interest in violating people's constitutionally protected First Amendment rights, okay? It's not only serious, it's not only incredibly dangerous, but it's also incredibly incompetent, okay? It's incredibly incompetent. For example, and this is an example that I used in my commentary yesterday, the Trump administration's central command used targeting from a random Twitter user. And in the process of using targeting from a random open source intelligence account from the Netherlands, they ended up killing 8 civilians in Yemen because of one of the targets that they had created. This random open source intelligence account living in the Netherlands caused the federal government and caused the military to go and strike a random area in Yemen, okay? The State Department has actively worked with organizations like Beitar that are insane. They're terrorist organizations. Like they have 501c3 status, but they're like very actively and known to be terrorist organizations. They claim to be open Kahanis and Jabotinsky supporters. These guys are creating the deportation list for the federal government. That's the reason why Rumeysa Öztürk was detained. That's the reason why she almost got deported for writing an article on a student newspaper. This in and of itself is so shocking and so alarming. And my job is to, of course, talk about this from the perspective of free speech. It is my job as a political commentator. These guys do not understand anything. They think everything is drama. They do not understand how this can impact them as well.
Hasan wasn't in the country, he was in France or whatever. And I was like, Donald, all right, we've got our chance. He's going to be coming back in a day or so. So just, yeah.
Dipshits are playing a formative role in getting people in trouble with the law.
Yes, that's the point. We don't want people supporting terrorism, promoting terrorism on the platform.
So wait. He proved the point that I was making. I'm 99% sure it was the Trump administration is inadvertently working with a lot of these dipshits, but Asmon's editor cut out the inadvertent part. I don't know what the original comment I made was. I don't remember, but I mean, I guess we can find it and look at it and see if he actually cut that part out, but it doesn't fucking matter because he then turns around and admits that like, yeah, We want that. We want this to happen. We want the federal government to go after people that we don't like the speech of. Like, he then turns around and admits the point that I was making, which is that this is dangerous. This is danger. This is, you're playing with fire. Like, what an insane statement. Like, what's the argument here? That you want me to be in federal prison because you don't like my commentary on American foreign policy? What a psychotic thing to admit. This is the type of shit that should instantly cause someone like this and their fan base to go, what the do you mean? Like, you want a Twitch streamer to go to federal prison because you don't understand and like his commentary on American foreign policy? What the kind of free speech absolutism is this? So you're not a free speech absolutist. You are not a free speech defender at all. And it's what's shocking about this is that it doesn't even revolve around like genuinely held convictions or political disagreements. It's just simply drama and how much the algorithm will feed Asmongold. That's what's so psychotic about it. The way Asmon talks about you in this administration is the same commentary he had when watching World of Warcraft videos. I can't see him as more than a biggest slop boss. I know. Bro, he's just a hateful fuck. What don't you get? No, I get that. I get that. I understand that. What are you talking about? What these guys do not understand is they just stand on this position where they personally think, they stand on this position and they personally think that this won't actually impact them at all. Okay? And they're stupid for it. Yeah. Mike from PA said, oh, here, this was the tweet. I also retweeted this as well, but here, he also had these statements as well, where he was just like, yeah, are actually playing with fire. And I even thought about not even mentioning this because I was like, I don't want to give him any sort of like power over the situation. But like, the reality of the matter is 100% the Trump administration is inadvertently working with a lot of these dipshits. Yeah, I did say inadvertently, and they cut it out to make it seem like I said the Trump administration is working with these dipshits. It's so silly. It's so silly. It's so disingenuous. These dipshits are playing it's so bad faith, but it doesn't even matter. Look at the disdain that he has. This cockroach. Really interesting was in the actionable side of things.
Yeah.
They also asked, have you ever interviewed a member of Hamas? Have you ever had a communication or correspondence with a member of Hamas, Hezbollah, or the Houthis? Now, what's really insane about that is that as someone who works in media, sometimes I do actually do journalism, right? As I've maintained this position over and over again. And I said that I would.
Journalism is when you tell people that they're like anime characters.
Yeah. Okay. First of all, bro, be for real. Asmongold defended you at the start of all this and extended charitability on almost all occasions until you continue to slander him. What do you expect? Back at the end of the day, what are you talking about? What the are you talking about? I've never even demanded that he gets banned off the platform. You know that, right? Even when he said Palestinians are an inferior culture that deserves to be genocided. You understand that? He's been calling for my ban and now has elevated that to calling for my permanent detention by the federal government because he doesn't like my commentary. This isn't petty drama, you moron. This is real shit happening to me, and one day will happen to you. If it can happen to me, okay, a person with a public figure status, okay, with money, why the do you think you're protected? God damn. You literally talked to him to explain shit to him after that statement, like you extended so much charitability. I know. What are you? What is this like? Oh, dude, he's not charitable anymore. I don't care if he's charitable to me, dumb. There's a difference between charitability from Asmongold or whatever, and also actively supporting the federal government, packing up people that he personally has a distaste for their opinions. Like, what do you mean? He's been calling me a terrorist for months at this point. You got checked at the border. They question you. That's not a rights violation. Brother, that absolutely is a violation. What are you talking about? Do you think that the government can ask you questions and potentially deny you entry into the country over your opinions of Donald Trump? Are you that stupid? Yes, it is. I'm an American citizen. And as an American citizen, I have protected First Amendment rights, which means that even if I were to literally tell the Customs and Border Patrol agent that like I love Hamas, there is no way that they are supposed to deny you entry into the country. It is the United States Constitution. Okay? They let you in? Yes, they did. But the entire purpose of this silly detention was to create a chilling effect on free speech. It is a direct violation of the federal government's responsibility not to do that. If you're coming back from Colombia and have pics online of you with kilos, you get searched too. Wait, what? Coming back from Colombia and had pics online of you getting with kilos? What? Was I coming back from Yemen with pictures of me online with prominent members of Ansar Allah? I was in France, dumbass. What are you saying? How is this? Do you understand why you had to reach to? Do you understand why you had to find a totally ridiculous comparison? Does that bring up any red flags in your mind as to why you had to come up with a totally separate situation as an analog here to make this seem more justifiable? In which, by the way, it still wouldn't be. They didn't put you in jail. They didn't charge you with anything. They didn't think anything. Oh, holy shit. It was an unlawful detention where the line of questioning revolved around my loyalty to the current administration. If you cannot understand how this is a severe escalation from the current government, I don't know how to explain this to you. And it will inevitably happen to you as well. Also, possession of narcotics or evidence of your possession of narcotics is not the same thing as protected speech. You understand that, right? Do you not recognize how this violates your rights as well? Like this means that a Customs Border Patrol officer could just, like, again, falsely detain whoever the they want and just question them for hours on end about their loyalty to Donald Trump. Or let's say under the Brandon administration, they were like, do you like DEI? It says here that you don't like DEI. Why don't you like DEI? Why don't you like gay people? Why don't you like the idea that titties in video games are smaller now? Why do you want them to be bigger? I lived in Mexico for a bit and got questioned deeply coming back in before, and I did less than what they would see about you online. I guess at this point, it just, this guy is just a bootlicker, right? Like he's basically saying that, like, it happened to me and it was an unpleasant experience, but it's totally normal and it should happen to every single person. Did they ask you about whether you like Donald Trump when you came back into the country? Was that the line of inquiry? No, it's not normal. The point is that it's not normal. Also, it wasn't like a couple questions from the border agent at the gate. The entire reason as to why this is a newsworthy situation. I'm going to try to do this to the best of my ability to basically explain to people over and over again. The reason why so many articles have been written about this is precisely because this is not normal. It is a new thing, okay? It is a new thing. That's it. Like, it's not normal to have done this to you, even though you lived in Mexico for an extended period of time. So it's not even a perfect comparison here. But you have to understand that the line of questioning is precisely at the heart of this problem. Okay? He's literally going down this line. That didn't actually happen. If it did happen, it wasn't that bad. And if it was that bad, that's not a big deal. And that's actually totally normal. And if it wasn't normal, well, you probably deserved it anyway. I know. Virtually all of these conversations turn into that, okay? All of these conversations turn into, oh, it didn't happen. And if it did, it wasn't that bad and it's normal. And if it wasn't normal, you deserved it. And as a matter of fact, if you deserved it, you deserve worse than it. Every single MAGA bootlicking dumb online, every single Asmin Roach fan is operating on that same boundary where they just, like, don't understand how much of a severe violation of their own personal rights this is. Your approval rating by the public is as low as the Democrats, 21%. El Bozo, keep on losing, son. Lamau, what? A decade of improving this space and making it a kinder, more inclusive space, and Asman just sends it on a rocket back to Nazi hell. They're going to be saying slurs again by next year. Oh, for sure. I mean, they already are. What do you mean? Think about how many people we ban on a daily basis. Yeah, if Asmongold left this rotting ass house for once and actually left the goddamn country to get on a plane, which I assume would be a biohazard to begin with, so he might not actually be able to get on the plane. But let's say he took a shower and he wasn't actually a risk to others around him, and he got on a plane and he flew out of the country, came back into the country under the Biden administration, and the Biden administration detained him and were asking him about his personal politics, about titties and video games, or whatever or his support for the AFD, and saying, well, under our administration's perspective, the AFD is actually a dangerous far-right radical group, or the fact that he, named his WoW character after Anders Breivik or something. Do you think that his audience would not talk about how much of a cancel culture backed movement was taking place here? Of course they would. They would lose their minds. They would understandably lose their minds. You want to know why I know that? Because people on Twitter get mad at Asmongold and he cuts content about how he's been canceled over and over again. And millions of people cry alongside him. This is not a cancellation. This is a violation of the First Amendment rights that every American citizen has. It's a violation of numerous rights. That's precisely the reason why so many, like ACLU and so many of these other civil rights organizations and litigators have come out to be like, this is completely unacceptable. Do you not understand this? I like that we are also in the process of seeing how fascism manifests in the collective consciousness as well. Like how many people find themselves staring directly at a situation like this that might even impact them in the long run and refuse to entertain the notion that this is completely unacceptable, refuse to entertain that the idea that like this should not happen, and they just go along with it and say, nah, it's a person that I don't personally like, so I cannot comprehend how this would somehow turn on me one day. Okay? This is how fascism takes place. This is how people cheer for authoritarianism. Okay? When you look at the current government and you make this calculation, understand that you are basically advocating for your rights to be taken away as well, erroneously, ridiculously, arbitrarily. It's not about your own personal opinions of me, okay? It shouldn't be about that. It's not about that. It's not about your own personal opinions of my commentary in general. It's about your rights, because my rights are also your rights. We are both American citizens. Definitely not a fan of yours. With that said, I cannot believe anyone thinks that this whole situation is okay. I hope that you will reconsider the people that you see online that actually cheer on this this ridiculous situation. I hope it at least like causes you to reflect on your previously held judgment on content creators like this who don't understand how dangerous this is and simply cover this from the aspect of drama. And no, we can't just talk to each other. You want to know why we can't talk to each other? Because Asmongold is scared shitless of talking to me, okay? I've said that I would talk to him 1,000,000 times over. He tells his audience his new meta is to say, well, I'm bad faith and I'll just lie about him or something like that. And and that's why he doesn't want to talk to me. And he would instead use his elevated position to constantly cry and demand I get banned off this goddamn platform. And now, I guess, banned from living a free life. Notice how there is this unique space where a lot of people love chirping from their hug boxes and refuse to entertain a direct conversation. He literally did not cheer and said you shouldn't have been detained. You should stop pandering to your audience. What are you talking about? We just watched him say it's good. We don't want people like you who are terrorists to keep saying terrorism when talking about my detention. Not only that, but he has also routinely demanded that I get banned because he didn't understand what I was saying. His own personal misunderstandings are the reason as to why I should be banned off this platform. I mean, you could just stop promoting that stuff, and I'd imagine it would all stop. That First Amendment is pretty based, even if it applies to you, homie. Wait, I'm actually ignorant. What right do I risk losing here? I mean, you could just stop promoting all that stuff. Don't you understand that that is literally the point? Yes, you are unironically advocating for no free speech when you say, well, if the government's going to come after you, maybe you should shut the f up about that sort of thing. That's the whole point of free speech. You might not agree with me on this, but I have a firmly held conviction here that is rooted within facts, okay? Your favorite content creator might not recognize that, but that doesn't change the reality. Self-censorship is a chilling effect on free speech. It's the whole point of the First Amendment. I agree with detention stuff being fascist, but how many times do you act like supporting jihadism and jihadist organizations is about being libertarian or anti-fascist? When have I promoted or supported a jihadist organization? Do you think Hamas or Ansar Allah or Hezbollah are jihadist organizations and jihadism? Once again, that's your inability to comprehend the differences between civic nationalist organizations that are engaging in militancy against a settler colonial entity in the region, okay? These are nationalist emancipatory movements. They're not jihadist. You're just saying that because they're Arab. You're saying that because they're Muslim, and you just assume it's like ISIS. You don't even know what the word jihad means to begin with, but I'm not even going to entertain that because I'm understanding what you're using that as a terminology for. Also, it doesn't even matter because while I obviously do not support any of the groups that would be considered jihadist by your perspective, even though you think all of them are, like ISIS or Al-Qaeda, okay, even that is still constitutionally protected. What the Constitutional protection does not revolve around what you find to be distasteful, okay? Then it shouldn't exist. Then you're basically making an argument that it should not exist at all.
Yeah. I don't want...
Look, it's Hamas, Diddy, Bin Laden, Pixar, it didn't happen. Adolf Epstein, Piker in the flesh. Ban me, trust fund baby. I'm not going to ban you because you're so stupid that I think we will keep you as a pet in the chat.
To be too particularly mean.
I like that these guys have also deluded themselves into thinking that this is like normal commentary that other people on the outside will hear them say, and we'll go, yeah, that's a normal guy who said those things. We're keeping him. Thank you, Daddy. I am your daddy. I am your father. That I would.
Journalism is when you tell people that they're like anime characters.
For the record, you might not like my conduct in a conversation that took place with someone that I thought was a Houthi, found out he wasn't a Houthi, and then chose to humanize. But that doesn't mean that there isn't journalistic value in that conversation. As a matter of fact, yes, there was journalistic value in that conversation. It was a scoop that many in the media also tried to get. Just because you don't agree with it doesn't mean that that is not a valuable conversation that took place. There were plenty of valuable pieces of new information that came out of that, like, for example, the fact that we learned that he is not a Houthi, or the fact that we learned that he actually has no issues with Jewish people as long as they are anti-Zionist.
Yeah.
So he was just some other terrorist? What the f*** are you... Okay. No, he wasn't. Terrorism isn't just like brown person that I don't like. I know that you're using it as that, as a catch-all term, but that's just gross and racist. No, he's just a 19-year-old Yemeni who supports the Houthi movement, who supports the Ansar Allah movement. Okay? So the other side of this, for the record, the other side of this that is like really dangerous that I wanted to also talk about is the fact that material support for terrorism is illegal in this country, as in you are not allowed to offer financial help to a designated terror group. You are not allowed to offer logistical help, training, things of that nature to a designated terrorist group. But this administration is trying to muddy the waters, as previous administrations have as well, in an effort to erode First Amendment protections. They want to make it so that speech is considered material support as well. There are court cases that have been set forth already to get to this point. They are trying to blur the lines between offering any sort of commentary or any sort of support verbally for a designated terror group they want to turn that into material support, which is already under existing law as being illegal. This is a severe violation of the First Amendment protections. That is by design. They are trying to do this to take away the constitutional protection that you and every American and every non-American on U.S. soil has. Do you understand? That's the point of contention here.
I don't want to be too particularly mean, but if Hasan was as big of a journalist as he claims he would be, maybe Bernie Sanders would sit down with him for more than 15 minutes.
Once again, Asmongold, I don't even consider myself to be a journalist, but journalists do, you know? It's not my consideration. I routinely say I'm not a journalist, although I do have the capacity to sometimes do journalism, as I mentioned here. I know words are very difficult for you to comprehend. But also, what I simply don't understand is there's just such a basic thing that you can Google here. Like, it's just like I didn't just talk to Bernie Sanders once. I talked to Bernie Sanders for a longer period of time before then. Like, I don't understand. We're just like, how many hours do I have to talk to Bernie Sanders until, I guess, Asmongold considers me a journalist? Is Theo Vaughn a journalist? Since he had a 2-hour conversation with Bernie Sanders? Is that how this works? Is there a Bernie Sanders metric? Normal media hits on NBC or whatever also take 10 minutes. Not even 10 minutes. Oftentimes it takes 9 minutes, 5 minutes. Like, it's a certificate where if Bernie Sanders talks to you over a certain period of time, then you're considered a journalist, I think. Also, isn't the whole point to invalidate people actually researching and declaring the truth in his little clips to make that factual, since everyone will just listen and not do their due diligence? Yes.
Not trying to be mean, but you're
I'm
a
not trying to
streamer.
be mean.
Stop trying to act like you're a journalist.
I'm not. I don't say I'm a journalist. I say I'm a Twitch streamer and a political commentator. But a Twitch streamer and a political commentator does have the capacity to do journalism from time to time. That's just the truth. Now, ironically enough, once again, I don't say I'm a journalist, but journalists do consider me to be a journalist. That's it. That's part of the reason why journalists like Ested Herndon from the New York Times will have me come and speak at the University of Chicago, as I did yesterday, to talk to an entire room about modern media. Someone came up to me at the airport last night, a Hasanabi head, said that she wrote her thesis on me. Said that apparently in Northeastern, the college that she's in, the college that she went to, that there were 3 media courses specifically designed around what I do in new media and politics. So the space that we're in is relatively new, and I try to do my very best, but it seems like people who study journalism, they consider this to be a new area of journalism. Having said that, once again, I don't consider myself to be a journalist. I don't say I'm a journalist. But international media certainly does. Hasan Reactions is one of the best ones in the React channel.